Hello to all my dear followers, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. If this is your first time passing through our little corner of showbiz, consider this a warm embrace. It means the world to have you here. We've built this space together, a place where we slow down the noise and look closely at the moments that leave everyone whispering. Before we dive in, a gentle reminder. Subscribing is free, it keeps this community alive, and it makes sure you never miss our deep dives into the stories that set the entertainment world buzzing. Today's spotlight turns to two names that have shaped an era of Turkish television and ignited a fan base that refuses to forget: Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu. You saw the title, you felt that tug of curiosity, and you were right to click. Because what we're unpacking is not a scandal, not a confrontation, but a reaction. One that keeps resurfacing across interviews, stages, and small digital gestures. It's the kind of reaction you miss if you blink, yet it tells a story that's impossible to ignore. Let's set the scene with the context it deserves. Barış Arduç has long been admired for his composed strength, his thoughtful approach to roles, and that unforced elegance that follows him from set to red carpet. He is guarded, selective, a man who lets his work speak until there's something he truly needs to say. On the other side of this balanced scale stands Elçin Sangu, radiant, quick-witted, with a warmth that pours through the screen, and a technique that disarms even her harshest skeptics. When they collide on a project, the result isn't just chemistry, it's a jolt of authenticity that feels both rare and inevitable. Their collaboration in Karalık Aşk is part of television history now, a phenomenon that outlived its airtime and etched itself into memory. But what fascinates us today isn't only what happened between the characters on the page. It's what transpired outside the script, the glances, the pauses, the way admiration lingers in the spaces between words. That is where the reaction we're talking about takes shape. We have sifted through interviews, scanned press conferences, watched gala encounters frame by frame, and even tracked the quiet footprint of social media to understand it. The surprise is not thunderous. It's delicate. It's in the way Barış responds when Elçin's name emerges in a question. His smile in those instances doesn't rush, it blooms. The stern line of his jaw softens. The shoulders drop a fraction, as if a private memory brushed his attention. He's known for answers that are precise and economical, yet when the subject turns to her, his phrasing expands, the timbre of his voice warms, and a trace of laughter slips into the edges of the sentence. It reads as genuine appreciation, the kind you can't manufacture for a camera. Think back to that now famous interview, the one where a reporter asked point blank if he would work with Elçin again. The literal answer was cautious. If the right story comes along, he said, choosing each word like a craftsman selects tools. But it was the timing that sold it, the half-smile that arrived before the sentence, the pause that suggested he was picturing it before he acknowledged it. There was no grand promise, no headline bait. Only the real tell of a person who would genuinely enjoy a reunion, if the craft made sense. From an actor who guards his choices, that says more than any sweeping declaration. There's another layer to this. Those who follow Barış closely know he rarely drifts into personal anecdotes unless they serve the art. Yet when questions surface about the Karalık Aşk days and Elçin's approach on set, he shares details with a softness that stands out. He mentions long nights that ran into early mornings, the fatigue that nips at focus, and how her calm, grounded presence kept the set buoyant. The laugh between takes, the precision when the camera rolled, the sense that everyone could trust the scene in her hands, these are the moments he revisits with a quiet gratitude. For someone as introspective as he is, that's not small talk. That's esteem. Now, comparisons. He rarely speaks of colleagues in contrast, and when he does, it's typically neutral, professional nods, no favorites declared. But watch his body language shift when Elçin enters the conversation, even indirectly. He leans a touch closer to the interviewer. His hands open rather than fold. The gaze, often still, gains a flicker, as if a light turns on from behind his eyes. Ask him in general about female co-stars, and he'll reply with a diplomat's efficiency. Thread Elçin into the question, and suddenly we're hearing specifics, timing, commitment, humor when the tension spikes. It's the difference between describing a category and remembering a person. Let's not underestimate the ecosystem of social media, either. Barış isn't the all-day everyday poster. He doesn't chase the algorithm or flood the timeline. Which is why the smallest nods, an understated like, a rare repost, a measured comment on something connected to Elçin, carry the weight of intention. Devoted fans, those who know his digital patterns, read those gestures as signals. Not romantic confessions, not messages coded in fireworks, just markers that she holds a particular, unshakable spot in his professional and personal regard. In a landscape of performative noise, his subtlety speaks louder. Look at the press junkets that followed Karolik Ask's run. Again and again, when pressed to reflect on what made the series resonate so fiercely, he credits her instinct, her rhythm, the way their scenes found oxygen together. He doesn't throw around superlatives carelessly. Instead, he selects careful language that hints at scale without veering into sentimentality. It feels like he's trying to honor what they built without diluting it with clichés. The consistent through-line? Respect that doesn't fade as the headlines move on. And then there are the public moments that test everyone's composure. Picture this, an awards ceremony, the kind with bright lights and restless cameras, where the air bristles with expectations. They cross paths backstage. Not a show for the photographers, not a staged reunion, just a sincere greeting, a hug that's warm but not performative, a few words exchanged, eyes holding for a heartbeat longer than usual. It's enough to make the internet combust with speculation, enough to remind their audience that sometimes the softest gestures are the ones we remember. There was also that on-stage Q&A not long ago, when an audience member invoked their beloved characters, the names that launched shipper wars and fan art empires. You could see it, the flash of recognition, the faster breath, the tiny smile he tried to rein back. He answered with a focus on story, on craft, on how the right script would always be the deciding factor. Yet the mood in the room changed because the subtext did. You felt what sat beneath the words, a willingness, even an eagerness, to explore that space again if fate decided to open the door. None of this amounts to melodrama. That's precisely the point. The reaction lives in the margins of public life, where sincerity hides from spectacle. It's the look of a man who knows what it means to find a co-star who lifts the work, who steadies the collaboration, who challenges and supports in equal measure. For fans, that kind of acknowledgement is a balm. It tells them that what they witnessed on screen wasn't smoke and mirrors, but the product of two artists who spoke the same language without needing to rehearse every syllable. And here's the lesson tucked quietly inside all of this. In a culture that often mistakes volume for meaning, there's power in the whisper. Barış shows how admiration can live in a half-second smile, in a careful word, in the decision to open up just a little more than usual when a certain name appears. Elçin, for her part, has mirrored that grace, crediting his discipline, recalling how the character work found its spine because he held it steady. Together, they model a version of professionalism that feels both grown-up and romantic in its own disciplined way. When we step back and trace the timeline, press rounds, festival stages, the occasional online breadcrumb, a picture emerges. It is not the picture of a chaotic rumor mill or a hidden feud. It's the portrait of a lasting esteem, one that refuses to reduce itself to headlines. They are two people who survived the storm of sudden, explosive popularity and, rather than retreat into defensiveness, chose acknowledgement and gratitude. The quiet glow you see when their names are mentioned in the same breath is no accident. It's the echo of an experience neither has any desire to diminish. Fans have felt this for years. They write to us asking if they're imagining it, if the sparkle is just projection. We always say the same thing, look at the consistencies. Watch how many times he returns to words like trust, rhythm, and balance. Observe how her compliments are specific, never generic. That repetition is a map. It leads you to the same destination every time, a place where respect is the foundation, companionship was the method, and the memory of working side by side is a source of real pride. So, to tie all the threads together, we've been exploring the understated, unmistakable reaction of Barış Arduç when the conversation circles around to Elçin Sangu. We've seen how his reserve softens, how the smile arrives before the sentence, how the body language opens up when she's the subject. We've tracked tiny social cues that matter because he's not the type to scatter them carelessly. We've noted the anecdotes that speak to a set culture defined by calm, skill, and mutual generosity. None of this is scandal. All of it is sincerity. In the end, that's what keeps this story compelling. The magic of Kerala Ask didn't evaporate once the cameras powered down. It transformed, settling into a respectful glow that keeps their names tethered in the public imagination. When people talk about on-screen chemistry, they often mean sparks that flare and fade. What these two created feels more like a steady flame. Something that can be revisited without embarrassment, something that honors the audience's devotion by proving it was never a trick of lighting. It was, and remains, the result of artists who met each other at full height. Tell us what you think. Have you noticed the way his tone changes, the grin that sneaks in, the patience with which he answers anything that touches her orbit? Do you read the same signals we do, or do you think fans are reading tea leaves where there are none? The comments are yours. We'll be there as always, ready to dive in with you. If this analysis resonated, hit the like button, share it with fellow admirers of Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, and help more fans join our conversation. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars and tap the notifications so you never miss a moment of the stories that move us, perplex us, and keep us rooting for the people who make television feel like a secret we all share. Thank you for watching until the very end, for keeping this community honest and passionate. We'll be back with more soon. Until then, keep your eyes open. The smallest reactions often carry the biggest truths.